At Alcom, it always been our endeavor to partner with healthcare professionals and enrich them with relevant clinical information, and we continue to do so even these challenging times. So, in order to help our doctors address these challenges of managing diabetes with an individualized patient approach, we have set up an expert panel of 4 doctors who will share their perspective views on the same and engage in a question and answer session post completion of all sessions. To help us navigate through the meeting, we have with us today Dr. Or Kumaran sir, who will be our moderator for today's webinar. We take this opportunity to welcome our moderator of day, Dr. O.R. Kumaran sir. Dr. O.R. Kumaran sir, MBBS MD Medicine, the Senior Consultant Physician, Apollo Specialty Hospital, Madurai. Sir finished MBBS from Jipmar Hospital, Puducherry, and MD from Madurai Medical College. Sir scored first rank in MD from Madurai Kamarajar University. Special training in non-invasive cardiology and joined as a consultant Orient Hospital in 1990. Continue as consultant in medicine since the first day of Apollo Hospital, Madurai. Sir as a member IMA, AIP, RSDI, HIS, APA, gave a lecture on many medical topics, especially MD, ST preventive cardiology. Field of interest, non-communicable disease, post training in since 3 years. Sir, welcome, sir. Welcome our thing, sir. Sir, over Kumaran, sir. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Suresh.
Yes.
Today we have 2 eminent speakers who are going to talk about 2 different topics. And the first topic is going to be by Dr. Pandyan, who has got his MBBS, MD, and DFS and postgraduate diploma in diabetology and cardiology. He is presently practicing as consultant diabetologist in Sembagam Diabetes Clinic, Madurai, and he was earlier consultant diabetologist in JNR Hospital, Batlagundu. He has undergone the following training: Integrated Diabetes Clinics Training Program for Doctors, World Diabetes Foundation Department of Endocrinology, Christian Medical College and Hospital, Vellore. And he also got training at workshop on diabetes care, control and prevention from Diabetic Research Center. He has also got WHO Collaboration Center for Research, Education and Training in Diabetes Chennai. So he was an investigator in Glucose VIP trial, India Heart Study, India Heart Study 2. So I request Dr. Pandyan to go ahead and present his first topic, which is going to be managing postprandial hyperglycemia in obese diabetes with higher PPG and at risk of CVD. We all know diabetes itself is a risk factor for cardiovascular disease, and diabetes itself is staged as the first stage of cardiovascular disease. So, whenever any patient develops diabetes, we have to treat him as a patient with cardiovascular disease, and as such, we have to take certain precautions. Okay, so I request Dr. Pandyan who will go ahead and present this presentation. Dr. Pandyan?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Please go ahead, please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your warm welcome speech, sir. Good evening to all. Honorable moderator, respected Dr. O.R. Kumaran, sir, respected co-speaker, respected doctor friends, good evening to all. At this juncture, I convey my heartfelt thanks to Alcom Diabetology. Sir, am I audible, sir?
Yeah, very much audible, very well audible. No problem.
Yes, sir. Alcom Diabetology for giving me this great opportunity. Special mention to Mr. M.R. Srinivasan and Mr. Sasikumar. Today's topic for discussion is managing young diabetes newly diagnosed with CVD family history. See, a 42 years old male patient from lower economy class. Why it is so important? Cost of the tablet plays a major role in the adherence to the therapy. He is recently diagnosed only 6 months back, and he is on metformin 1000 milligram. So he is newly diagnosed. So you must fix his goal of HbA1c as 6.5, because the first year of diagnosis of diabetes is very, very important to keep the blood sugar under control, so as to prevent or at least to reduce micro and macrovascular complications. This is the golden period. His father had MI at the age of 60. So he had family history of cardiovascular disease. So you have to keep this in mind. No significant past history. His vital parameters are normal. Renal and hepatic functions are normal. His weight is 55 kg and his height is 160 centimeter. It means his ideal body weight is height minus 100. It is 60, but he is only 55. His BMI, weight divided by height in meters square, is equal to 21. 18 to 23 is normal. So his BMI and ideal body weight is normal. His recent HbA1c is 8. So for young newly diagnosed, we fixed the HbA1c of 6.5. So there is a need to reduce more than 1.5% of HbA1c. What next after metformin? He is already on 1000 milligrams of metformin. We can give up to 2000, but he is already underweight. So the choices in front of us are sulfonylurea like climiprid, or increase the dose of metformin, pioglitazone, DPP4 inhibitor, SGLT2, GLP1 and insulin. See, sulfonylurea means first generation, second generation, third generation, tolbutamide, chlorpropamide, second generation, clopine, clamide, glipizide, glycoside, third generation, the climiprid, and the modified release. So we are having so much of sulfonylureas, and we must know that all sulfonylureas are not same. Climiprid is entirely different from others. We have to see in detail. Pioglitazone, black mark warning in India. 4 more countries it is not introduced. The related molecule rosiglitazone is banned worldwide due to cardiovascular mortality. DPP4 inhibitors, cardiac safety, weight neutral, less hypo, but the efficacy of HbA1c lowering is only 0.5 to 0.8. The same way SGLT2, GLP1 insulins are injectables. Usually the patient at the initial stage, they don't like. So our option in us is sulfonylurea with climiprid. Sulfonylurea, especially climiprid, we are choosing, and we are going to see the features of climiprid. Before selecting a OHA, following factors should be considered. Age of the patient. Here the age of the patient is young. So first year is very crucial for him. So fix his HbA1c is 6.5. It is the golden period to prevent or reduce the micro and muscular complication. So the selection of OHA must be reducing HbA1c of more than 1.5. It is only through climiprid only. Next, blood HbA1c, I already explained. It is only due to climiprid can reduce the HbA1c of 1 to 2%. Weight gain. I already told climiprid is different from other sulfonylureas. Other sulfonylureas like first generation can cause weight gain, but glimepiride causes low weight gain. Socio-economical status is also important. As I already told, adherence of that drug is very, very important with the cost of the therapy. The cheapest one is glimepiride when compared to DPP-4 inhibitors, SGLT2, GLP-1 analogs, and insulin. The risk of hypo is very, very minimal in glimepiride. Any other comorbid conditions associated. In this patient, his father has CVD, so he has a chance. So, glimepiride, it is a renal, cardiac, and hepatic safety, so we can use. Convenience, once daily, without any frequent monitoring of renal and hepatic and cardiac monitoring, we can use glimepiride. So glimepiride is best among these. What guidelines says? The EASD, European Association of Study, and American Diabetic Association, they divided the groups into those patients with ASCVD with chronic kidney disease and HF, and those without ASCVD and CVD. And according to this, the ADA 2020 algorithm goes. It is like this. If this patient is prone for ASCVD, heart failure, and CKD, it is better to select any one, SGLT2 or DPP-4 inhibitors or GLP-1 analogs. Weight gain, we have to very compel. In the obese patient, weight gain is if are more concerned, then also GLP-1 or SGLT2. If cost is the major issue, they say please select sulfonylurea. And efficacy also, if you are not able to plot the HbA1c within to the target HbA1c, they say sulfonylurea is the first choice. So efficacy wise, it is better to select sulfonylurea, and cost wise also sulfonylurea is the best one. The Canadian and WHO guideline what says, see, the physicians are the best judge to select the drug. We have to select which one is suitable for our patient. Sulfonylureas are not recommended for elderly patients because of fear of hypoglycemia, because they are already with so many drugs, memory also low. So if sulfonylurea is taken half an hour before a diet, and if they are not taken the diet properly, they may end up with hypoglycemia. So we can avoid sulfonylureas in the elderly and CKD patients. But in the younger patients who need good glycemic control and rapid blood glucose lowering, sulfonylurea is the first choice. The WHO also says that DPP inhibitors are less effective than sulfonylurea in terms of lowering glycated hemoglobin, HbA1c. As already told, sulfonylureas reduce HbA1c of 1 to 2%, but DPP inhibitors only 0.5 to 0.8. See, the IDF clinical practice recommendations for managing type 2 diabetes in primary care also says that if the first line monotherapy is metformin, if you want to add other glucose lowering drug, sulfonylurea is the first choice except the clebenflamide. See, it is the long-acting sulfonylureas which causes the weight gain and hyperglycemia, but not the glimepiride. So sulfonylurea except clebenflamide, we can also choose alpha-glucosidase inhibitors and DPP-4 inhibitors. If metformin is already there, if we want to add another drug, it is better to add sulfonylurea as a second line. And the best choice of sulfonylurea to the metformin is yes, only sulfonylurea. The best choice of add-on to metformin is sulfonylurea except clebenflamide. So the IDF also recommends sulfonylurea. IDF, I already explained. The NICE guideline, National Institute for Healthcare Excellence, They also recommend sulfonylurea preferably over SGLT2 inhibitors and GLP because sulfonylurea has safety. It is from 1950, Second World War time itself. Use, safety, efficacy, cost effectiveness, and we are using for the last from 1950. So it has so many trials proved the efficacy of sulfonylurea. So summary of guidelines recommending sulfonylureas and combination for management of type 2 diabetes. See, the American Association of Clinical Endocrinology, with the initial baseline HbA1c 7.5, straight away you can start combination therapy, preferably metformin plus sulfonylurea. AD also says if the initial HbA1c is more than 9, start combination therapy. Sulfonylureas are recommended add-on therapy to metformin. They are also say. The IDF also says sulfonylurea is the only useful second-line options for patients with uncontrolled glycemic level. So we want a good glycemic control. Sulfonylurea is the best. RSSDA also recommends sulfonylurea must be preferred for good glycemic control and with poor financial background, that is cost effectiveness. So all these guidelines recommends only sulfonylurea as a second line add-on to metformin. See, arguments for and against the modern sulfonylureas. Ischemic preconditions. There is sulfonylurea alter ischemic precondition, but it is only with the first generation talbutamide and chlorpropamide, not with the clemipride, the third generation drug. Then the hyperglycemia also is more with the clebenculamide and first generation, not with the clemipride. And the CV safety studies, the Carolina, which compared clemipride with the DPP4 inhibitor, linaclotide, shows it is not inferior to DPP4 inhibitors in the CV safety trials. So, increased cardiovascular mortality is accused. It is not with the modern sulfonylureas, is proved by Carolina. So many trials, UKPDS, ACCARD, ADVANCE, ADAPT, all the part of their investigation is only with the modern sulfonylureas only. They compared sulfonylurea, modern, particularly modern sulfonylurea with others. See, it is a important. Sulfonylureas tend to show anti-apoptic action on beta cells. Aim of the study is to investigate whether incretins or sulfonylurea preserves or increase functional beta cell mass. The study, the randomized clinical trial with 47 subjects with early type 2 diabetes treated with incretin, exenatide, and the DPP4 inhibitors, sitagliptin or clemipride for 6 months, and they concluded that exenatide or sita had no significant effect on functional beta cell mass, whereas clemipride appeared to enhance beta cell secretion. Clemipride has a dual mode of action, improves insulin secretion as well as peripheral insulin sensitivity. See, they had one trial, euglycemic and hyperglycemic clamp studies in 11 obese patients with type 2 diabetes with good glycemic control before and after 4 months of treatment with clemipride to assess the effect of clemipride on insulin secretion. We all know insulin secreted in bibasic manner. The first phase immediately after the intake of food within seconds, and it is continued for 10 minutes. The second phase reaches the plateau at 2 to 3 hours. The usual defect in type 2 diabetes is the diminution of the first phase of insulin. This is the earliest defect in type 2 diabetes. Improved both first phase and second phase. See, this is before treatment with glimepiride. This is after treatment. This is first phase is increased size, just like that. After treatment with glimepiride, the second phase also improves. So glimepiride improves both first and second phase of insulin secretion in type 2 diabetes. This slide we already explained the same thing. Glimepiride after first phase and second phase, it improved. This is the comparison of glimepiride versus DPP for inhibitor. We all know the effect of HbA1c with the glimepiride is 25 to 30%, but with the DPP4 inhibitors, it is only 12. So I already explained the glimepiride 1 to 2% of HbA1c reduction, but DPP inhibitors 0.5 to 0.8. Cost, glimepiride is very cheap, but DPP4 inhibitor is more cost. Then hypoglycemia is neutral, is minimal in glimepiride. The CVD decrease in glimepiride, no change in DPP4 inhibitors. Weight reduction in glycemia with glimepiride is accompanied by significant and stable weight loss. See, open uncontrolled observational study with 1,700 type 2 patients were enrolled, and 284 were followed for 1.5 years. They received 0.5 to 4 milligram of glimepiride once daily, and their baseline HbA1c is 8.4, and initial body weight is 79.8, approximately 80. See, the treatment with glimepiride, see, after 4 years, there is a weight reduction of 1.9 kg and HbA1c reduction of 1.9. After 12 weeks, it is just increased. The weight 2.9 kg reduction, HbA1c 1.5. The 18th maximum 3 kg weight reduction and 1.7% HbA1c reduction. So reduction in glycemia with glimepiride is accompanied by significant stable weight loss. So it decreased the weight 3 kgs in the 18 weeks. From starting of 4 weeks, it decreased 1.9 kg, and 18 years it is 3 kg weight loss. The HbA1c reduction in the 4th week it is 1.4, 18th week it is 1.7. Glimepiride controls glycemia with less insulin secretion. How? It is due to glimepiride's extra pancreatic action, because glimepiride improves insulin resistance, improved peripheral glucose uptake, thereby via insulin mimetic effect in peripheral tissues, potentially mediated by CLUT4 action. So with this action, with minimal variation in insulin, it attained good glycemic control. See, here they compared glimepiride, clebenclamide, glycoside, and glipizide. See, the glycemic control is good in glimepiride with less insulinemia when compared to glimepiride, glycoside, and glipizide. Glimepiride beneficial effect on adiponectin levels. Where you are talking on adiponectin. So 12 weeks of glimepiride treatment. A study in 17 elderly patients with type 2 diabetes who were treated with glimepiride for 12 weeks. Adiponectin has two effects. The first one is anti-inflammatory activity. The second one is it opposes atherogenic activity. So glimepiride decreases insulinemia. So there is increased circulation of adiponectin. This increased circulation of adiponectin decreases atherosclerosis. So with the baseline, it is in the 12 weeks, the secretion of adiponectin increases and the HbA1c decreases. The International Journal of clinical practice meta-analysis reveals effectiveness and safety of climipiride and DPP4 inhibitor associated with metformin in second-line pharmacotherapy of type 2 diabetic patients, systemic review analysis. See, the reduction of HbA1c levels with climipiride is 12% greater reduction when compared to DPP4 inhibitors. The proportion of patients achieving the objective HbA1c of 11 less than 7 is more in climipiride group than the DPP4 inhibitors group. The FBC variation, the climipiride metformin when compared to DPP4 and metformin, there is a reduction of 0.21 millimole in climipiride and metformin group. The dropouts because of lack of effectiveness is very less in climipiride group. Climipiride, less risk of hypoglycemia. Climipiride is associated with less hypoglycemic reaction because climipiride is different from other sulfonylurea. Climipiride acts on the 65-chlordeltone receptor. It has more rapid onset and longer duration of glucose lowering effect. Other sulfonylureas act on 140-chlordeltone and insulin's peripheral glucose uptake. It enhances peripheral glucose uptake by insulin mimetic effect in peripheral tissue, potentially mediated by GLUT4, as I already explained. So the chances of hypoglycemia is very, very, very less in climipiride when compared to other climipirides and other comparators. There is a 4-year population study with more than 30,000 patients. It shows climipiride, the risk of hypoglycemia can be reduced if individual targets are determined before using climipiride. Cardiovascular safety of sulfonylureas, a meta-analysis of randomized clinical trial. So in 2013, there is 62 trials reporting major cardiovascular events with sulfonylureas with various comparators, and they proved that overall odds ratio for major cardiovascular events with sulfonylurea treatment versus the comparator is detecting no signal for cardiovascular risk. The use of sulfonylurea not associated with significant difference in the incidence of MI. So it is proved in 62 trials. Sulfonylurea do not increase CV mortality risk. When compared to metformin, sulfonylurea did not significantly affect all-cause mortality or CV mortality. Significantly, sulfonylurea decreased the risk of non-fatal macrovascular outcomes. Some evidence suggests that compared with metformin, second and third generation sulfonylurea may not affect all-cause or CV mortality, but may decrease the risk of non-fatal macrovascular outcomes in type 2 diabetes. We already seen this comparison. The Carolina, the very, very important trial. This is the effects of linagliptin 5 mg versus the strong competitor sulfonylurea climipiride 4 mg to assess the major adverse cardiovascular events in type 2 diabetes. It is in more than 6,000 participants. In that, more than 40% are women, 3.6 years of follow-up, 42% of the patients are already with macrovascular disease. Participants are relatively early type 2 diabetes with established CV risks. The trial concludes among patients with type 2 diabetes and elevated cardiovascular risk, the DPP4 inhibitor is non-inferior to sulfonylurea. See, it is non-inferior to sulfonylurea climipiride on prevention of major adverse cardiovascular events over a median of 6.3 years. So, to conclude, We must know Glimepiride is different from other sulfonylureas. Glimepiride used at an optimum dose cause no beta cell hypertension, reduced beta cell exhaustion, and no hyperinsulinemia to its unique binding characteristics. Has more specific to pancreas than to other tissues, especially myocardium and vasculature, so it won't affect ischemic preconditioning. It has rapid as well as longer duration of action, has extra pancreatic effect beyond insulin secretion for glucose decreasing activity, has effect on both phase of insulin secretion, first phase and second phase, has once daily dose convenience, has beneficial effect on adiponectin, has low potential for weight gain, has low incidence of hypoglycemia. So the only sulfonylurea, Glimepiride, has all these characteristics. So the golden period for good glycemic control is first 1 year, use with Glimepiride, early diagnosis, aggressive early treatment with Glimepiride is the key to achieve good glycemic control and to prevent micro and macrovascular complications. So Glimepiride, best one among sulfonylureas, use with enhanced use with those patients with HbA1c of more than 1.5 effect with no fear of hypo, weight gain and all. Thank you for your patient listening. Thank you. Thank you once again. Alchem Diabetology for giving this good opportunity. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Pandyan. It was wonderful.
Thank
You
you.
made your points very clear that the use of sulfonylurea like Glimepiride is very essential in bringing down the blood sugar, because after insulin, sulfonylurea has the best effect in bringing down the HbA1c by nearly 2%. So, not only that, the recent sulfonylureas like Glimepiride has got a beneficial action in these CV risk factors. So, like improving the insulin resistance, decreasing the increasing the adiponectin levels, and also increasing the both first and second phase of insulin secretion, which is very essential in bringing down the blood sugar. And thank you very much. So you
Thank you.
justified in showing that use of sulfonylurea, which is cheaper than the other groups of drugs like DPP-4 or GLP-1 analogs or SGLT-2 as a second-line treatment after metformin. Thank you, Dr. Pandyan.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Now let's go to the second topic, is by Dr. Siddharth. Can I have his profile projected? Hello? Well, Dr. Siddharth has got his MD in General Medicine and certificate course in diabetes. He is a consultant in Anbu Hospital and he is a professor at HOD of Pharmacology Department and Government Medical College, Pudukkottai, with 16 years of teaching experience. And may I request him to go ahead and present his topic on the use of continuous glucose monitoring as an important factor in control of diabetes. We all know that the patients with brittle diabetes, whose blood sugar goes up and down like roller coaster. In those patients, to assess what is the timing of the medication to be given, what type of medication is to be given, we have to have what is called continuous glucose monitoring. So continuous glucose monitoring has come to be established as an important tool or important investigation in assessing the diabetic status. It's also shown that the glycemic variability can be seen only with continuous glucose monitoring, and those patients with high glycemic variability have got more risk for cardiovascular disease. Dr. Siddharth, may I request you to go ahead and make your presentation? Siddharth, are you there? Dr. Siddharth, please. Dr. Siddharth? Yeah. Yeah, you. Yeah. கொஞ்சம் கிட்ட வச்சுங்க. And the slides.
Sir, the slide is visible to everyone, sir?
No, we can listen to you, but your slides sharing is to be.
Sir, is the slide is visible, sir?
Yeah, now okay. So the need for that profile. Dr. Siddharth, please go
Am I
ahead.
audible, sir?
Yeah, audible.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the nice introduction.
So,
Dr. Senior physician or Kumaran, sir. I'm beloved first for Dr. Pandyan, sir.
Sir, may I request you? Sir, may I request you to use a earphone because your voice is not that clear, sir. Can you please use the earphone, sir? Sorry to interrupt you, sir. Please, can you please use the earphone, sir?
So there is no headphone here, sir. Good evening, one and all. First of all, my sincere thanks to Alkem Diabetic Division for giving the opportunity to present the topic, the need for ambulatory glucose profile in management of diabetic medicine. That is application of the advanced glucose sensing technology to clinical decision making. So start with the clinical scenario. Patient comes to the OPD. Dinagaran, 52 years male, diagnosed with type 2 diabetes along with hypertension since 8 years. He complained my glucose level never comes to normal in last few months. Sugar level always fluctuate. Current therapy, metformin 1000 milligram, telmisartan 40 milligram once daily. His test report, glycosylated hemoglobin 7.8%, body mass index 25 kg per meter square, blood pressure 130/80 millimeter of mercury, pulse rate beats per minute, body weight 70 kilograms, fasting blood sugar 140 milligram,
உங்க ஸ்லைட் மூவ் ஆக மாட்டேங்குது. Siddharth?
The slides are not moving.
Now moving, sir.
It is moving.
Yes, sir.
Now
Thank
it
you,
is
sir.
moving.
Thank you. Patient comes to the OPD, name of the patient Dinakar, 52 years male, diagnosed with type 2 diabetes along with hypertension since 8 years. He complained my glucose level never comes to normal in last few months. Sugar level always fluctuates. Slides not moving. Current
slides
therapy,
நான் வேணா மூவ் பண்றேன்
metformin
Sir,
1000
slides
milligram,
வேணா
telmisartan 40 milligram once daily.
The slides are not moving, sir.
நான் மூவ் பண்றேன் சார். நீங்க சொல்லிட்டு இருங்க. நெக்ஸ்ட் டைம் சொன்னா நான் மூவ் பண்றேன் சார். நான் மூவ் பண்ண முடியும். ஸ்லைட்ஸ் நான் மூவ் பண்றேன் சார். ஹலோ சார், ஆடிபிள்னா சார்? சித்தார்த் சார், சுரேஷ் பேசுறேன் சார், ரீஜனல் மேனேஜர். ஹலோ 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 ஹலோ.
Yeah, hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Sir,
Yes, sir.
Siddharth,
Suresh sir,
sir,
tell me.
sir, no, we'll move that slides. No, it's not changing. We'll help him.
No,
Siddharth, sir?
I can see here. It is changing.
Okay, but why is it stuck in there? I don't.
Just a minute. Viraj.
Hello.
Yeah, Viraj. Can you please check what is the issue?
No, slides are moving from my end.
It is also moving from my end. I also can see that the slides are changing.
Okay, I will talk to Srinivasan. Then he is there.
Sir, no need. You just
You have to click on that previous and next button just below the
if
slide.
it is not working, then just tell next. Then Viraj is there. He will be changing the slide. There is no problem.
Yes,
There is no
I will
problem,
change.
sir.
Okay. I will inform.
Yeah, please.
You're not audible, Siddharth.
Now the slides are moving, sir.
Glucose level normal. Sugar level always fluctuate. Next slide, sir. Current therapy, metformin 1000 milligram, telmisartan 40 milligram once daily. Next slide, please. Test report, HbA1c 7.8%, volume 25 milligrams per day square, blood pressure 180 per 18 millimeter of mercury, pulse rate 8 beats per minute, body weight 72 kilograms, fasting 140 milligram per deciliter, postprandial 240 milligram per deciliter. So according to the test report, HbA1c normal 6.5 to upper band. So elevation of HbA1c, fasting normal 110 and postprandial 140. So the blood glucose level fluctuations in last 6 months. What should we do for this patient? Add one more tablet, monitor blood glucose by continuous glucose monitoring for this patient, any lifestyle modification drug tests, and final one, diet control. So almost this patient need all the above. So next slide, please. So do 2-day self-monitoring blood glucose data. So morning fasting blood sugar 110 milligram per deciliter and post breakfast 240, lunch around 200 and post lunch 250 milligram per deciliter and dinner around 300, post dinner 340. And next day also similarly the postprandial hyperglycemia is almost seen in the second day also. So exaggeration of the postprandial excursion can be treated with add-on drug. So already patient on metformin 1000 milligram per day. So 2-day self-monitoring blood glucose clearly shows postprandial hyperglycemia. So add-on drug to control the postprandial blood sugar level. Next slide, please. So type 2 diabetes is a disorder of carbohydrate intake and metabolism. So which drug we should be prefer? Glycemic fluctuation, DPP4 inhibitor, SGLT2 inhibitors, and sulfonylurea or any other suggestion, but this patient clearly shows postprandial exertion. So can be treated any other drug other than this DPP4, SGLT2 inhibitor, and sulfonylurea. Next slide, please. Strategy for the management of glycemia. Strategy for the management of glycemia in patients with diabetes should aim to address the three main components of dysglycemia: chronic hyperglycemia, hypoglycemia, and glycemic variability. These features contribute to the development and progression of diabetic complication. The long-term intervention trial comparing intensive and standard management of diabetics have clearly shown the association between the prolonged poor glycemic control and development of microvascular, that may be whether retinopathy or nephropathy or neuropathy, and to a lesser extent to macrovascular complications like myocardial infarction or stroke, cerebrovascular accident, or cardiovascular disease. Next slide, please. So what is the meaning of glycemic variability? Swimming of blood glucose level, diminished or absent of glycemic autoregulation, or shortfall of insulin availability, or hypothesis to be etiological factor for these glycemic pumps. So short-term and long-term glycemic variability also seem to be associated with increased episode of severe hypoglycemia, which in turn are associated with adverse cardiovascular outcome and all-cause mortality. Next slide, please. Glucose variability and clinical outcome in people with and without diabetes. Since 2015, new evidence has also emerged in support with glycemic variability as an independent risk factor for total mortality and due to cardiovascular disease in both type 1 as well as type 2 diabetes. And glycemic variability increased recurrent cardiovascular event and mortality in people with diabetes following episode of acute ischemic stroke. And long-term HbA1c variability has been associated with increased risk of developing atrial fibrillation and incidence of heart failure. And long-term glycemic variability in type 2 diabetes has been associated with risk of developing diabetic nephropathy. Next slide, please. And mean HbA1c and variability and mortality in people with diabetes aged 70 years and older, a retrospective cohort study clearly shows both low and high level of glycemic control were associated with increased mortality risk. And the level of variability also seems to be important factor, suggesting that a stable glycemic level in the middle range is associated with lower risk. And glycemic variability as assessed by variability over time in HbA1c might be an important factor in understanding mortality risk in older people with diabetes. Next slide, please. Glucose excess directly related to the oxidative stress and followed by endothelial dysfunction and inflammatory reactions. The oscillating glucose level alternating between hyperglycemia and hypoglycemia are reason for production of oxidative stress and endothelial damage and inflammatory reaction and beta cell apoptosis. Next slide, please. The journal publication of American Medical Association 2006, glycemic variability and oxidative stress in patients with type 2 diabetes, the glucose fluctuation, that means hypo sugar control and hyperglycemia cycle exhibited a more specific triggering effect on oxidative stress than chronic sustained hyperglycemia. Glucose fluctuation means hypo followed by hyperglycemia exhibited more specific triggering effect on oxidative stress and endothelial dysfunction and inflammatory reactions than chronic sustained hyperglycemia. Next slide, please. Glucose and independent risk factor mortality. Survival probability coefficient variant of first one blue denotes the cost ratio 8.5% is so survival compared with 14.8 and 27.7%. So long-term study, the chronic blood sugar control response for the survival probability. Next slide. Self-monitoring blood glucose and continuous glucose monitoring. What is the basic the self-maintained blood glucose and continuous glucose monitoring. Short-term glycemic variability self-monitoring blood glucose measurement, but this method has been progressively replaced over the past few years by continuous glucose monitoring. The advantage of CM to detect the slightest abnormality of glucose metabolism in daily living. SMPD provides an updated diet and blood glucose profile, whereas CGM is interstitial glucose measurement at 5-minute interval. Every 5 interval provides a more comprehensive record covering both day and night and is regarded as gold standard assessment of short-term glycemic variability. Usually, CGM will place the abdomen or arm using a 5-minute sensor placed under the interstitial fluid. And compared to CGM, SMPG is a less accurate. Next slide, sir. Slide, please. Comparison of the characteristic of SMPG versus qualitative and quantitative analysis of glycemic profile. And features SMPG reflects glucose value at time point like Snapshot. But CGM is a continuous glycemic changes like a movie. And sporadic glycemic data partially reflecting the glycemic changes with diet, drugs, etc. And CGM fully reflecting the glycemic changes throughout the day with diet, drugs, exercise. And retrospective analysis based on the output of glucose value and CGM reflects the direction of speed of the glucose changes and help the patient to understand the overall trend and individualized feature of glucose changes. And measurement of the method measures blood glucose by SMPG and CGM measure glucose concentration in subcutaneous interstitial fluid to indirectly reflect the blood glucose level. SMPG uses the test strips and a pricker, most at the fingertip or other side. Sensor, that is a 5mm sensor implanted in the subcutaneous tissue at the abdomen or arm. Next slide, please. And therapeutic implication, there are several possible methods for reducing the glycemic variability in clinical practice using pharmacological and non-pharmacological tools. Non-pharmacological option, moderate physical exercise has been shown to lower glycemic variability and reduce the oxidative stress and endothelial dysfunction. Combining CGM and with appropriate education seems to be promising strategy for improving glycemic control and glycemic variability. Next slide, please. Come to the case scenario. Efficacy of safety of voglibose plus metformin in patient with type 2 diabetes, a randomized controlled trial. Next slide, please. Study design. The primary endpoint was change in the HbA1c level at week 24 compared with the baseline. The key secondary endpoints were change with the level of HbA1c, fasting blood sugar, and 2-hour postprandial at weekly interval of 4, 8, 12, 18, and 24 compared with baseline. Other secondary efficacy endpoints also include the percentage of patients achieving the glycemic target to HbA1c less than 7 or less than 6.5 at week of 24. Glycemic variability at week 8, 18, and 24 compared with baseline. Next slide, please. And most of the Indian diabetic patients have high on dietary carbohydrate, hence have a high postprandial blood glucose load. So, RNA drug, first one, voglibose with metformin, comparative study with metformin alone. So, the combination of voglibose with metformin, higher HbA1c reduction and higher response rate, and also reduction in fasting blood glucose as well as postprandial blood glucose, and also the glycemic variability is very, very minimum with combination of voglibose with metformin. The unique advantage of alpha glucosidase inhibitor, especially voglibose, insulin sparing effect and natural incretin enhancer, body weight reduction, and glycemic variability benefit in type 2 diabetic patient, and gut microbiota synthesis. Next slide, please. So combination clearly shows glycemic variability is less with metformin plus voglibose. The first one shows the baseline. Second curve dotted line shows the metformin alone, and third one clearly shows the combination of voglibose with metformin. The glycemic variability is minimum. The combination of voglibose with metformin than metformin alone. Next slide. So case scenario, patient combined with voglibose along with metformin reaches the HbA1c level up to 7% and also less glycemic variability, so less oxidative stress and less endothelial dysfunction. Next slide, please. Follow-up visit after 6 months self-monitoring blood glucose. Almost the patient, the postprandial blood glucose level will be maintained within the target range. So there is glycemic variability is very, very minimum when combined with metformin with add-on drug voglibose. Next slide, please. Thank you all for the patient. Sorry for the important.
Thank you, Dr. Siddharth. Okay, you have justified in measuring the continuous glucose monitoring so that we can know what is the glycemic variability. You also mentioned about the harmful effect of glycemic variability, especially oxidative stress, which leads to macrovascular complications. And also, there is another important factor in this is that what is called time in range, which needs to be seen. That is the number of hours the patient is in between 70 to 180 is supposed to be also another factor, just like glycemic variability. And you have shown that because our Indian diet is mostly full of carbohydrates, we have to add something to reduce the carbohydrate absorption in the form of voglibose along with metformin to bring down the postprandial blood sugar and also to bring down the glycemic variability. So thank you very much, Dr. Siddharth. There are a few questions. Is there some questions are there? I think we'll try to answer. Is there any relationship between hypercholesterolemia and amputation or foot ulcer? The taker, Dr. Pandian, would you like to see? How to manage MODY patients already on 4 milligram of glimepiride. And then third question is glycemic variability importance, triple vessel disease with prior CABG. You take us? Hello. Your comments on COVID and glycemic variability. One Dr. Vaibhav has asked. Number one is COVID. It's a big stressful disorder, and also we use this steroids in patients with COVID pneumonitis and also other medications which can cause an increase in the blood sugar and increase in the glycemic variability. In these patients, it is very important to monitor the blood sugar as frequently possible and use insulin judiciously so that we can reduce the glycemic variability and its complications. Why can't we find legacy effect in hypertension management nitric oxide? I think it's irrelevant to this talk. Is there any relationship between hypercholesterolemia, amputation, or foot ulcer? I think these questions are relevant to the talk today. Dr. Pani, would like to make any comment on this?
No, sir.
How to manage MODY patients already on 4 milligram of glimepiride?
Already on 4 milligram of glimepiride. What is his fasting postprandial HbA1c? We don't know. MODY means young patients which resembles type 1, but they are actually type 2 diabetes which can be easily managed with OHAs. So, without knowing what is the fasting postprandial and the HbA1c, it is not to comment. So, glimepiride, usually we use 4 milligram as the maximum dose. So, in addition, if the patients not achieve the HbA1c means, he can use DPP-4 inhibitors, or he is with ASCVD or CKD problems, or to prevent this one, we can use mild AGLT2.
I think insulin also is very important in these patients.
MODY.
Yeah, no. After there is a what is called secondary failure due to sulfonylurea.
Sulfonylurea.
Then we can always go in for insulin rather than
Insulinuria. Yes.
glycemic variability is important in 3 vessel disease with prior CABG. Dr. Siddharth, you would like to answer this question?
Glycemic variability, importance.
Patient with who has undergone CABG.
Triple vessel disease with prior CABG, sir. Yes, sir. Definitely, we need glycemic variability minimum, sir. Otherwise, it will lead to oxidative stress and inflammatory markers will be elevated and endothelial dysfunction. So, absolutely, the glycemic variability will be very minimum and kept in target range, sir.
Okay. It's very important. Whether it is patients on onset of diabetes or with coronary artery disease, it's important to keep the glycemic variability as low as possible. It's always better to do a continuous glucose monitoring at least once to assess the status, and then appropriately we can manage with OHA and insulin if needed. Dr. Vaibhav, you have any more questions on the online? See, there are a few questions which are not very relevant to our talk today. Mr. Vaibhav? Suresh? Hello, Suresh?
Sir, I'm there, sir. Sir.
I think
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir.
Nearly about 9:15 now. Because of this
Okay.
lockdown, now it's better to be safe at home. Thank you very much, Dr. Suresh. And Alka for giving me the opportunity to moderate this session on glycemic variability as well as treating a young hyperthermic diabetic patient with CVD risk or who's got a family history of CVD. Once again, I thank Dr. Pandian and Dr. Siddharth for their speech.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Sir, shall I close, sir? Shall I close,
Thank you,
sir?
sir.
Just
please.
2 minutes, sir. Sir, we take this opportunity to thank Dr. O. Kumaran sir for managing the webinar effectively, ensuring that audience are benefited with the clinical relevant message. And we thank Dr. Sita sir and Dr. Pandian sir for sharing their enriching clinical experience pertaining to the field of diabetes. We would also thank all doctors who have joined us for this webinar. We salute all our doctors who have contributed immensely for keeping us all are safe and healthy even at their risk of their own life. And we at Alchem Laboratories will continue to serve our doctors and patients by making our products availability, especially our chronic brands like Gulcoril M and MV. You may reach any of our colleagues at any time for support. We thank you and good night, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you,
Okay.
thank you, sir.
Valuable.
Thank you,
Thank you,
sir.
sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.